Thank you, Speaker, hugely for your invitation and your facilities here today. And thanks, Jim, too, for his remarks and comments, because a lot of this is about generosity, and it is about giving, and it is about joint learning. I'm especially privileged, as you will have deduced from this penguin stand here, to have come back this weekend from another 4 days in Baghdad, Iraq, talking with Iraqi politicians, and we took a delegation of Northern Ireland politicians, cross-party of course, and from South Africa, to extend the Helsinki Iraq project, where members from here had discussed with Iraqi politicians in the seclusion of that famous forest in Finland about their issues and what insights the processes in South Africa and Northern Ireland could bring as they struggle to work on their emerging peace process. And Speaker, I can bring you greetings from Dr. Ayad al-Samari, Speaker of the Iraqi National Parliament, who hosted us. And again, it's that convening power of neutral space where he hosted us to work with the Iraqi parties and the politicians. And I was not surprised when some of the delegates said, "Oh, you must pass our greetings to Speaker Willie Hay, because when we came to Northern Ireland, he opened up his facilities in this building. He opened up lunches and dinners and facilities for members to get down into that detailed discussion and argument and debate." And I see many MLA faces here and staffers who took part in those debates. Sheikh Human Hamoudi recalls the 90 minutes he spent in the Senate chamber here, standing. They stood jointly, himself and Dr. Paisley, on the morning when Dr. Paisley was to resign. And for 90 minutes, Sheikh Hamoudi recalls the intense debate on politics, on theology, and on the conflicts that those two countries, here and in Iraq, were engaged in. And also, Speaker, you'll be amused to learn that another speaker emerged from the Iraqi delegates and said, "I'm the Speaker of the Kurdistan Regional Parliament." And he said, "We are like Northern Ireland, in that we are part of this bigger entity. We have other interests and foreign powers who are interfering or intruding or engaging with us." And Dr. Kamal Kirkuki sends his greetings too, because he understands the relationship of a smaller part of the country and the difficult relations with the Turkish and the Syrians and the Iranians on the borders. And we, the Northern Ireland people, were secretly pleased. I'll give you two examples. One was when one delegate thumped the table and said, "There must be no preconditions." We smiled to ourselves and wondered where that phrase had come from. And then later, as we were wrapping up after 3.5 days of very intensive discussions, one of them closed in his closing comments, and he said, "We have 3 sets of overlapping relationships here in Iraq, and we need to find the linkages between Kurdistan and the National Parliament, between Kirkuk, which is a city close to Kurdistan, and the National Parliament, and the linkages between them." And for those who suggest that we're trying to sell the Northern Ireland model or impose our template, of course that's entirely not what's happening. But if there are insights and if there are examples that can be cross-transferred by them into their setting, then of course that must be good for us and for them. And on a lighter note, during the delegation that this report recognises and that we're launching today, we were on the bus up to your constituency, Foyle, Speaker, as we couldn't leave out, your beautiful constituency, and Rona was chairing a discussion on the bus, because this is no freebie stuff here, this is not conference tourism. Rona was chairing an intense discussion, I think it was about equality and power sharing and the relationships between them. The Kurdish delegation threatened a walkout. They insisted that the argument with their colleagues was so intense that they would undertake a walkout. And I think it was the Turkoman delegation that immediately put up their hands and said, "We second this motion." There is the door as the bus sped over the Glen Shane Pass. And at that time, when we were in Iraq at the weekend, one of those delegates, Bruna, came to me and said, "I was not able to apologise to Bruna for the intensity of my emotions that day, because she had broken her arm and was in a sling but please bring her a hug as my apology. So we adopt the term the hug apology, which he sends from Iraq to you today. But of course, it's the politics that are important. It's the learning and the progress. And for that, my image of Baghdad is two things. Speaker, the hotel, the main hotel, the only hotel that is available in the green zone, is it's less than the distance between this building and the car park, the public car park. And between that space there are 4 checkpoints, there are 3 electronic arches, there are 2 dog searching teams, and the minimum time to get from one to the other, and at one stage there's a sterile sealed area between 2 Berlin Wall types that one crosses via a tunnel, and the minimum time to get back and forwards, and the simplest of things of going from a hotel to the parliament to hold these discussions is a reminder of how difficult it is, and a reminder too of what happens when politics isn't working. And I think that is, for us, the image for me is the shadow of our future. And what the Iraqis were saying in their discussions with us, the Turkmen and the Arabs and the Kurdistan representatives, was that you in South Africa and Northern Ireland have created small stepping stones towards your future. We stand in the shadow of your future, and we want to learn how we can make those steps forward. And that for me is both humbling and intensely motivating. Let me say, Speaker, you joked about air miles. Let me tell you, when I was at the airport, I did get my car out, and I did try to get air miles on the plane, only to discover that the airline woman said, "I'm sorry, these tickets have been bought with air miles." Because they have been bought with air miles because one of the donors and supporters in this project, since it's not government funded, and for our part it's a Stratagem project, and one of the ways that supporters support the exercise is to donate their air miles in order to allow our politicians to travel. So how they register that in your register, I'm not sure. Brackets air miles donated don't know the cost of that. So these are the complexities, but also the inspirations. I know that the Iraq example is a live one, but I also know that many of you in this room have worked hard on other projects and building relationships with other parts of the world. And I think that it is a context in terms of the conflict zones and regions, and it's how we in Northern Ireland can understand and offer what help we can. And for that, the sort of political point is about the importance of the future International Conflict Resolution Centre, because I think that we who are trying to understand and make assistance, we need resources, we need an archive of materials, we need training materials, we need presentations, we need descriptions, we need interpretation capacity, and I think that that centre, when it comes, will be a powerful additional resource to enhance and enrich those discussions so that that learning and that sense of solidarity can be applied. So I'm delighted that we can launch this report here today. It's in English and in Arabic. It was commissioned by the United Nations, who funded the study trip in 2008 of the Constitutional Review Committee of the Iraqi Parliament. It was followed up fortuitously by another visit that again you hosted, Speaker, in May of this year by the Kirkuk Provincial Council, again supported by the UN, and they wanted to underpin those lessons, and so they asked us to write about it and record it, so we hope that this is a useful resource for those who undertake this sort of work. Finally, I couldn't leave one out, and I couldn't allow Jim's comments to go unrecorded, so you may finish off my contribution, Joanna, and I thank you again for your support today.